Welcome back to the Navy Sports Magazine. Time to talk some women's track and field with Ellie Abraham. She, of course, multi-time Patriot League champion, but she hails from the city of champions. So it's no surprise. Brookings, South Dakota, home of the two-time FCS champions, the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State, and the home of two of my favorite college basketball players ever, Mike Baum and Nate Walters. Ellie, appreciate you stopping by today. What is it about Brookings, South Dakota, that has made it this cradle of champions, including yourself?
Well, I don't know about that, sir, but I think it definitely helps having South Dakota State right there. My dad teaches there, and I've actually seen Nate Walters play. I watched him when I was growing up. We always went to both the men's and women's basketball games, and the women's team is probably more famous. We've had probably over a dozen Summit League championships, and I've been to the Summit League championship as well. But my coach, Chris Grunhagen, went to South Dakota State and ended up staying in Brookings to coach high school cross country and track. So he coached me for 6 years in Brookings. I started high school track in 7th grade because we kind of had a runner shortage. And I credit everything I learned about running to him for sure. He was an incredible coach.
Look, when you're watching success and watching successful people, being around successful people, I don't know if it's karma that rubs off on athletes, but is there something that can be said for that? When you're around successful people and you watch successful people, you kind of get a feel for what, success is and the confidence necessary as an athlete to have that success? Because, you're competing at the highest level. There's not a higher level in college that you can really compete at than what you're doing right now.
Honestly, I don't know. I wasn't really surrounded with a ton of successful sports stories. There was basketball, but not much else. I didn't really go to, well, I guess we had a pretty decent SDSU soccer team, but in terms of my school sports, we didn't really stand out in anything other than I was involved in band and choir in high school, and we had really good programs for both of those too.
Was there ever anything other than running for you? Did any other sport have a chance, or was it always going to be something like you're doing now?
I definitely found out I had more of a knack for running than anything else. I dabbled with basketball, and I did soccer from when I was 8 years old all the way through my junior year of high school, but I discovered that my favorite part of the sports was just running up and down the corridor, up and down the field, and that was really the only thing I was good at. So that's why I stuck with running. But I think in another life here at Navy, I would have been in the rock climbing club, because I've been climbing since I was in 1st grade. And if I went to a civilian college in an alternate universe, I would definitely be like a rock climbing hippie studying conservation. So that's something I'd still like to get into later in life for sure.
Look, let's face it. We all get enamored with the short sprints, the 110-meter hurdles, things of that nature. But distance runners like yourself are unique. I don't think the pool is as big, certainly, starting out. But what attracted you to the longer distances? And obviously now, not only the longer distances, but even the introduction, obviously, of the steeplechase and your success at it. As an event, what got you into that, and more importantly, what's allowed you to be successful in a variety of events like you have been?
Well, it all started with my dad. He was just a recreational runner when I was growing up, and he would go out and run a 5K 3 or 4 times a week. And even from a very young age, I always wanted to go with him. But until I was in about 5th grade, he always made me bike with him. And he said, "Someday, Ellie, I'll let you run with me. You just gotta wait your turn." So in 5th grade, he said, finally, I could run with him. And we trained and trained. We started with 1 mile, then we worked up to 3, and then he signed me up for a Arbor Day 5K. And we ended up beating some Army ROTC people, me as a little squirt in pigtails. And I guess that was the first time I beat Army. In the 5K and in Brookings, South Dakota. And then we had, the field day track meets at school at the end of spring. And my dad said, "Well, Ellie, you've run a 5K, you might as well sign up for the distance events. And so I signed up for the longest things I could find. And he said, it's really easy to win at this age because all the guys and all the girls are going to sprint the first part of the race and then die at the end. So all you have to do is not sprint. And sure enough, that strategy worked. Ended up doing pretty well. Just kept running, kept loving it, and got my way into the high school team in 7th grade. And being able to compete at a higher level just encouraged me to work even harder and just keep performing and training even harder. And my coach pushed me and challenged me all along the way, never let me get complacent. And then I guess I ended up doing everything from the 800 to the steeplechase here because my coach here, Coach Lunes, just mentioned the steeplechase to me once and said, why don't you try jumping over hurdles? And I jumped over some hurdles at practice on Monday, failed terribly. I thought, okay, she'll probably never have me do that again. And then she said, all right, on Saturday, Ellie, you're racing the steeplechase at Army Navy. And I failed miserably at that race too. And she still had me doing the steeplechase. But every meet I cut time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as you're look, sports are all about failure. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Every coach tells you that. It's 100% true. Every sport is about failure. But what was the drive? Because it's easy to just say, you know what, I can't do this, coach. I'm going to just try a different event, or I'm going to, stick to the 3,000 and things of that nature. But what was the driving force to keep doing that, even though you had the early struggles in such a new event like that?
Well, it was definitely my teammates. We had a firstie at the time. Her name was Annie Imhoff, our team captain, and she did the steeplechase. And she said, Ellie, like everyone kind of falls flat on their face in this race the first time. It takes a really long time to get used to. And trust me, like your first race wasn't even as slow as my first race. She said, like as long as you can get used to the pacing and learn to keep a sustained effort throughout the whole thing, you're going to cut time every single race, I promise you. And that much held to be true. I'd failed so much in the first race because I tried to go out way too hard, and then by the end I didn't even have enough energy left to jump over the hurdles, and I tripped over all of them on the last lap. So the next race I went way more conservatively, and I still cut time, and I still felt like I had energy left at the end. And then the race after, I said, all right, I'm going to push a little harder and still stick it out at the end. So it was just a real trial and error type of thing. How hard can I push while still being able to finish out that last lap of the race? And just ended up cutting time every race and really enjoying it.
I know we look at running, and in the short-sightedness, we think, oh, we're just running. But the different techniques that are involved for all of the events that you participate in, is that a challenge in learning all of those different techniques? And as you said, I mean, look, there's a different pacing for a relay as opposed to the steeplechase or a long distance running event. And are those disciplines hard and techniques hard to really master? Because for the type of competition you're running in, it takes a great skill to be successful at these because of the opponents you see all the time.
Sure. I think the only skill really involved in distance running is like the skill of being able to jump over hurdles, which is something I'm still not great about. But I try to, whenever I can, just do reps and reps and reps of jumping over hurdles and doing hurdle drills and doing form. And kind of like I've done with swimming and some other things at the academy, I just ask every person I can. So sometimes Coach Cook will see me and he'll come over and help me with my form. He's our like head hurdle and track coach. Sometimes I'll just go ask hurdlers. Sometimes they'll see me struggling. The hurdlers will just give me free advice and say, that looks terrible, Ellie, let me help you. I just try to keep learning step by step every single year. It's still something I'm working on. And then as far as pacing, I had the endurance base from cross country. We run a 6K. So if I can run a 6K, I can definitely run a 3K for a steeplechase. And transitioning to a speedy event like an 800 isn't that difficult because we do workouts where we're doing 400 repeats and 300 repeats and 200 repeats and practicing that 800 pace. So sometimes we'll do the first half of the workout at a mile pace, which is another event I do. And then we'll have more speed work at the end, which is more of a 800 pace. So,
You mentioned something interesting a couple of answers ago. We talk about it all the time. Firsty leadership at the academy, and as well as the fact that the men and women now, you guys are together as one. You train together, you support each other, which really opens up the amount of support as you're talking about and advice, from twice the pool of people. But athletes here talk about that all the time. I imagine that's something that is something so strong, and as an athlete and a competitor, is that something that's welcome? Because I'm sure there are times where, within certain programs, maybe the offer to help and provide leadership by another athlete may not necessarily be the same.
Oh, I think especially at the academy, first year leadership is always welcome. It's definitely a model that starts in Bancroft Hall. The first is lead the whole brigade, but that continues out onto, I think, every athletic field, and certainly in track. I would not be nearly the person I am today or the runner I am today without the firsties on my team. I've had mentors every single year, especially Jess Nagel. When I was a youngster, she was a firstie on the team. She was our team captain, and she got me really into calisthenics workouts and lifting really hard in the weight room. And we'd run like all our tempo runs together, and she would always push me every single day. And she just had this great hard charging attitude that I loved. And she was really good at like hyping me up, but at the same time calming me down before races. And then, last year I had people like Beth Sullivan and Winter Bose and Elena Julius. And Winter was definitely the person who helped me the most in steeplechase. We used to do workouts where we would alternate laps. Like one person does the hurdles on this lap while the other person just runs in an open lane, and then we'd switch, and the other person runs the hurdles, the other person runs the open lane. And we were just in sync, running workouts at the same paces, racing together. And she just taught me so much about character development and what it means to like sacrifice and go up to bat for your people. I could talk about Winter all day. So yeah, that's definitely those people are definitely on my mind, every time I race, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you out on this, because of that, the lessons you learn along the way, the overall Ellie Abraham. I mean, how different is the Ellie Abraham now, that showed up on I-Day as an experienced so much, obviously, here at the academy through your time here? I mean, just how different are you, and how much have you grown, since that time?
Oh, quite a bit, definitely. When I first came here, I didn't know really anything about the military other than what I'd seen on the internet. I did a lot of research before I came here, but I'm not from a military family at all. So this concept of just learning about deployments and service and different training pipelines and all the different communities, that was really an experience for me, and something I enjoyed learning every year, definitely. And then I think I've just become like mentally tougher. I think everyone does here. There are days where there are so many things on your plate, you feel like you can't do them all, and you have to learn. We call it shooting the alligator closest to the boat. So just handling the most pressing problems now and learning which ones you can kind of shove off and do at a later time. So I've learned to handle a lot of stress, but not even as much as some of the other really, really involved people here at the Naval Academy. There are people who have even twice as much on their plates. But yeah, just going through day after day of every single minute of your time is planned out with a million things to do, and it's coming at you from all different directions. I was not ready for that in high school, even though I thought I was pretty busy. So I think that's going to be a good skill to have, is certainly as a junior officer. Something I may need to use later on in my career as well, if I ever command. And then just character wise, everyone has character flaws, but I've had a lot of time to like reflect on them and work on them. And pray about them here. And I've had some friends who've helped me along that process as well. And that's been really meaningful to me too.
Ellie, continued success. Congratulations on what you've accomplished, and obviously what you're focusing on accomplishing here with still some time to go. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Good to be here.